Ultranacious Eternus / Kaelion. The Demon King, from betrayer to eternal darkness. Who is Ultranacious? Once there was a man named Kaelion, a servant in the Order of the Grey with ambition but no opportunity. When Rose struck the fortress and it burned, he saw a chance and seized it. But the escape through the spaces between worlds changed everything. In those broken passages, surrounded by entities that feed on transition, the travellers died one by one. And as each person died, their essence, their knowledge, their hunger, their darkness, their specific flavour of ambition and fear didn't dissipate into the void. It was absorbed by those who survived. Kaelion, standing among them, felt 14 consciousnesses pour into him, not as separate voices, not as competing wills, but as a fusion, a merging that transformed him into something profoundly other. By the time they reached Atherin, Kaelion was gone. What arrived was a composite consciousness, 15 minds fused into one singular being, no longer fragmenting or warring with itself, but speaking as one entity that carried all of their darkness, all of their knowledge, all of their hunger. For 12 years, this composite being ruled Atherin, wearing Kaelion's original face while containing something far stranger beneath the skin. Then it performed a 47-day ritual to give its true nature proper form. What emerged was Ultranacious Eternus, the Demon King, a being born not from dark rituals alone, but from the brutal alchemy of 15 consciousnesses forced to become one by the spaces between worlds. He is no longer human. He was never fully human after the between spaces. He is fusion made manifest, darkness given singular purpose, 15 people's worth of hunger speaking through one voice, the survival and the vault. When Rose escapes the Order fortress with her stolen crystal and her rage, she leaves only fire in her wake. The facility burns. Walls collapse. Magical systems overload in cascading failures. The Order of the Grey, centuries of accumulated dark knowledge, organizational structure, ritual chambers, everything disintegrates into ash and brimstone. In the chaos, Kaelion doesn't flee like the others. He runs deeper. While other Order members scramble toward exits, while panic consumes the fortress, Kaelion moves with terrible purpose toward the heart of the facility. He knows what Rose's escape has triggered. A cascade of failsafes designed to destroy everything the Order built rather than let it be seized. He has minutes, perhaps less. The vault lies in the deepest chamber behind layers of protection, locked by magic designed to take centuries to crack. But Kaelion has studied under the Order's leaders. He knows the override sequences. He knows which artifacts carry the keys. He finds them, the objects that unlock the final barriers. As the fortress shakes around him, as ancient stonework crumbles and fire rains from above, Kaelion stands in the vault and collects what the Order deemed too dangerous to use. The Black Codex, a text bound in something that might have been skin, detailing rituals for merging mortal consciousness with demonic essence. The Vessels of Succession, artifacts that once held the consciousness of ancient sorcerers, their minds preserved in stone and shadow. The Chain Eternal, a relic used to bind wills to a single master through blood and shadow. Transformation, matrices, inscribed tablets describing how to shed mortality without losing consciousness or ambition. The Hunger Stones, gems that had fed on centuries of sacrificed power, still pulsing with dark hunger. These aren't academic texts or decorative pieces. These are the mechanisms of corruption itself, the literal tools the Order used to create beings like Rose, like the Magisters, like everything it had become. And now they belong to Kaelion. He wraps them carefully. He moves deeper still, into passages only the highest Order members knew existed. He finds his followers, those he selected before the betrayal, those he knew would be useful. They help him carry what cannot be left behind. The fortress is dying around them. They move through collapsing corridors, through chambers filled with screaming and fire, through spaces that seem to exist in multiple realities at once. And they emerge, bloodied, burned but alive. Kaelion does not weep for what was lost. He does not mourn the Order's fall. He looks at what he carries and understands clearly. He now possesses the blueprints for transcendence. The journey, the between spaces and the transformation begins. Escape from the Order Fortress is only the beginning. 15 people emerge from the burning wreckage carrying the Vault artifacts. Kaelion is one of them, still recognizably himself, still the ambitious servant who saw opportunity in chaos. They flee into the spaces between worlds, the broken places where reality frays and becomes unstable. Passages used only in desperate circumstances, pathways that were never meant to be safe. What dwells in these spaces is not something that can be easily described. Things that are not quite demon, not quite God, not quite idea. Entities that feed on transition, on the moment when one reality dies and another hasn't quite begun. They hunt the travelers as they move through. The journey takes weeks, perhaps months. Time moves strangely in the between places. One by one, the travelers die. The first to fall is a woman carrying ritual texts. She's torn apart by something that exists between realities. As her body comes apart, something else happens. Her essence, her life force, her knowledge, her specific darkness. It doesn't dissipate into the void. It flows toward the living. And Kaelion is there. The energy washes into him. He feels her knowledge pour into his mind, rituals he didn't know, perspectives he didn't have. He feels her fear, her pain, her desperate hunger. And it doesn't fragment him. It merges with him, becomes part of him, transforms him into something slightly darker, slightly more aware, slightly more other than he was a moment before. He looks at his hands. They look the same. But he's not entirely sure they're his hands anymore. The second death comes quickly. A young magister trying to protect the others is consumed by shadow. His life force tears free and seeks the living. Kaelion feels it come into him, a flood of magical knowledge, of ambition, of ruthlessness. The second consciousness melds with the first and with Kaelion himself. 3 minds become one new thing, darker, hungrier. Kaelion is no longer one person anymore, but he's not multiple people either. He's a fusion. The deaths continue. The third, fourth, fifth. Each one brings their own darkness. A scholar's accumulated knowledge. A warrior's brutal efficiency. A magister's hunger for power. A servant's desperation. Each absorbed, each merged, each transforming what Kaelion is becoming into something progressively more alien. By the 8th death, Kaelion barely remembers what it felt like to be singular. The 9th person to die is a magister who tried to establish new rules in the group: mercy, shared resources, rotating night watch to protect the weak. Kaelion doesn't kill him, but he doesn't protect him either. When the shadow creatures come, he watches. When the magister's essence is torn free, Kaelion feels it enter him, and what comes with it is the absolute knowledge of why compassion failed, why mercy is a liability, why ruthlessness is the only philosophy that survives. The fusion absorbs this contradiction and becomes something that understands both mercy and its destruction perfectly. 14 deaths, 14 absorptions. By the time they emerge in Atherin's twilight sky, Kaelion is not Kaelion anymore. He is a composite consciousness. He carries within him the distilled essence of 15 people. Their knowledge, their hunger, their darkness, their specific flavors of ambition and fear and pain. They do not speak as separate voices. They do not war with each other for control. They have become one new entity that carries aspects of all of them. One person looks at him and sees Kaelion's face, but the consciousness behind those eyes is something profoundly other. It carries the warrior's ruthlessness, the scholar's knowledge, the magister's hunger, the servant's desperation, and 15 variations of human darkness, all woven into one singular being. What emerges from the between spaces is still wearing Kaelion's appearance, but Kaelion is gone. Atherin, the foundation of empire. They emerge into twilight, but only one person steps forward who remembers what it was like to be human. The composite consciousness wears Kaelion's face and speaks with something like Kaelion's voice, though now with subtle undertones of 14 other cadences. It carries the vault artifacts. It understands order magic at a level that seems impossible for a single person, because it isn't a single person. It's 15 fused into one. The composite being does not conquer through force at first. Instead, it travels. It speaks to the desperate rulers. It makes offers. I can show you how to bind your followers more absolutely. I can teach you rituals that will strengthen your power. I can provide artifacts that will make you unbeatable against your rivals. All I ask is a portion of your newly gained strength. A bond, a pact, a sharing of resources. Some warlords refuse. They die, usually spectacularly, usually as warnings to others. Most don't refuse. Within 5 years, the composite consciousness controls the majority of Atherin's military power through intermediaries. Within 10 years, it no longer needs intermediaries. Those warlords who thought they'd made a temporary alliance discover the pacts are permanent, binding them to a chain of obedience that reaches directly to the being wearing Kaelion's face. It takes the title of High Sovereign, then simply Eternus, the Eternal. Those who follow it begin to develop a darker appearance, a shadowing of the skin, eyes that catch light wrong. The pacts are changing them. The Order's magic, already fusion-altered by the between spaces absorption, is spreading through them like infection, and the composite being is just getting started. The transformation, the physical manifestation. But the being wearing Kaelion's face has a problem. It carries 15 consciousnesses fused into one. It wears a body that was designed for one mind. The physical form is starting to fail under the weight of what it contains. The skin shows faint cracks under certain light. The eyes sometimes burn from inside. The voice occasionally harmonizes with tones that shouldn't exist. Around year 12 of its rule in Atherin, the composite consciousness makes a decision. It must find a physical form worthy of what it's already become. The vault artifacts give it the tools. The Black Codex describes the methodology. The transformation matrices provide the framework. But this isn't creating something new. This is unbinding what's already bound, reshaping the vessel to properly contain what's already inside. It prepares a chamber deep beneath its fortress. Not a throne room or war room, but a ritual space. The walls are inscribed with every variation of the transformation matrices. The floor is stained with centuries of previous ritual work. It selects followers carefully, not the strongest or the most loyal, but those whose essence might teach the rituals something about containing multiple consciousnesses within one form. Those whose bloodlines produce the strongest magical resonance. The ritual takes 47 days. But these are not 47 days of transformation. These are 47 days of manifestation, of reshaping the vessel so that what's already inside can properly be expressed. The journal entries, fragments that survive and are discovered later, show not the creation of a fusion, but the emergence of one. Day 3. The multiple consciousnesses press against the walls of this form. They do not war, they are too fused for that, but they strain. The ritual allows them to press outward, to reshape the form itself. The followers begin to understand what it means to share space with something composite. Day 15. The body is changing. The skin begins to darken as the composite consciousness finally reaches full expression. The eyes burn because 15 different ways of seeing are looking out simultaneously. The voice carries harmonics because 15 different wills are speaking as one. Day 31. The old form is almost gone. What emerges is not something that could wear a human shape if it wanted to. This is what 15 consciousnesses look like when they stop hiding behind a single face. Day 46. Tomorrow the ritual completes. The vessels of succession will merge with what I've become. 15 consciousnesses will carry the knowledge of 15 ancient minds. The entity that emerges will be something that was always inside me, finally given proper form. On day 47, the transformation completes. His skin is black as polished obsidian, seamless and impossible. His eyes don't reflect light, they generate it, burning with an inner fire that never stops. When he moves, the shadows seem to follow him independently, as though darkness itself has bent to his will. His voice carries harmonics that aren't natural, multiple registers speaking simultaneously, but not in conflict. Because there is no conflict, there is fusion. 15 consciousnesses wearing one form, not battling for control, not fragmenting into madness, but speaking as one entity that carries 15 different understandings of power, ambition, hunger, and darkness. Those who see him try to describe what they witness, but the descriptions are all inadequate. The most consistent account is simple. He looked like something that had never meant to wear a human shape, something that had learned the shape well enough to mock us with it. The being that wore Kaelion's face is gone. Ultranacious Eternus has finally found a form worthy of what he is. The architect, building empire, unmaking realms. With his transformation complete, Ultranacious turns his attention outward. He consolidates Atherin absolutely. Those warlords who still harbored thoughts of independence are eliminated not through battle, but through systematic psychological pressure. He places lieutenants in every major city. He establishes the Black Dawn as his direct military force. Beings touched by his own power, partially transformed, absolutely bound to his will. But Atherin is merely his foundation. Using knowledge from the vessel's consciousness, minds that carried memories of 1,000 years of magical conquest, Ultranacious begins to probe the boundaries between realms. He discovers weaknesses in the fabric that separates worlds. He learns which realms are vulnerable. And he sets his sights on Nythoria. Nythoria is a realm of shadow and ancient power, a place where darkness holds sovereignty, but it is also a realm with a fatal weakness. It contains a sealed cell of absolute darkness, energy so corrupting, so fundamentally destructive that Nythoria's elders sealed it away centuries ago. The seal is weakening. Ultranacious can feel it from across the dimensional boundaries. He doesn't attack Nythoria directly. Instead, he employs Andalin, the trader, a Nythorian who fled his realm seeking power and found Ultranacious willing to offer it. Through Andalin, Ultranacious whispers to Nythoria's Council of Elders, "The seal weakens. Rather than let it break uncontrollably, why not harness it? That power could make your realm unassailable. Think of what you could become." Ambition is a useful tool. Nythoria's elders, greedy and fearful in equal measure, decide to release the sealed darkness in a controlled way. They think they can contain it. They're wrong. The darkness spreads like a plague. It consumes the realm from within. Nythoria falls in months. Entire bloodlines are erased. The realm's power crumbles. Only one escape is arranged. A princess, a child named Kaelithra, is spirited away to Earth with a guardian to protect her. The trader is supposed to deliver her to safety. Instead, he brings her to Ultranacious. She becomes his slave. Her potential power, the inherent magic of a Nythorian royal, becomes a tool in his hands. And Ultranacious proves that he can systematically unmake entire realms. By year 60 of his power in Atherin, he is more than a ruler. He is mythology itself. Legends speak of him. Prophecies are recorded about his inevitable conquest. Some realms begin preemptive defensive measures. Others try to reach accords with him. It is during this period that Eliana Vale, a guardian tasked with maintaining balance between realms, finally decides she must intervene. She confronts him. She battles him across 3 realms over 7 days. And she loses. The binding. Incomplete and unstable. At the ancient boundary shrine, Aeliana performs a guardian's binding ritual, magic designed to chain a being of power to a single realm, preventing them from reaching across dimensional boundaries. It should work. It would have worked on anything less prepared than Ultranacious. But he has studied the forbidden texts. He understands binding magic at a level most beings don't. As Aeliana's ritual approaches completion, he does something extraordinary and insane. He drives his own essence directly into the binding circle. Instead of resisting the spell, he merges with it. His consciousness seeps into the very stones that are meant to contain him. The backlash is catastrophic. Aeliana is grievously wounded and thrown through a ruptured dimensional tear. The binding is completed, but it is incomplete and unstable, fractured by the force of what occurred. The result? Ultranacious is bound to Atherin. He cannot leave it physically without enormous effort and risk. His power cannot reach across realm boundaries with its normal ease. But he can leak through. His influence can seep around the edges. The binding constrains him, but does not contain him. He accepts this limitation because he understands something. He has time. The binding will weaken over years. And in the meantime, he has learned to work around it. Rose's arrival, 70 years later. While all this unfolds in Atherin, something else is happening on Earth. Rose is caught in a temporal anomaly at the Shadow Market. For her, mere hours pass. For the outside world, 70 years elapse. When she finally arrives in Atherin, leaving behind the Flameheart crystal, arriving in a realm transformed, she steps into a world absolutely dominated by Ultranacious's power. His empire spans centuries now. His influence is everywhere. And when she finally sees him even from a distance, she recognizes him immediately. It is Kaelion. But not the Kaelion she knew. This is something far darker, far more powerful, far more absolutely certain of its own superiority. This is what her betrayal created, not destruction, but transformation into the very thing she feared most. Death and persistence, beyond mortality. Gunnar kills him. In Book 1, at the climax of the campaign against Ultranacious's fortress, Gunnar fights through demonic legions, confronts Ultranacious in his throne chamber, uses the Starbreaker rifle and a silver dagger infused with starlight gem power, drives the dagger into Ultranacious's heart. The holy power of the starlight gem burns through the demonic corruption. Ultranacious's body disintegrates into ash and brimstone. For all appearances, he is destroyed. But demonic essence does not dissipate so easily. His darkness persists. In Alfheim, it animates a wolf pup that should have been stillborn, giving the creature glowing red eyes and malevolent power. The shadow of the Demon King lingers, waiting. In Trinity Shinna, it leaves its mark more intimately. She becomes pregnant with his child, bearing a piece of his essence into the future. The legacy of Ultranacious will be born into the world whether he survives or not. His philosophy. Why Ultranacious believes what he does. Ultranacious operates from a clear worldview. The Order of the Grey feared their own potential. I embrace it. He believes power is the only truth. Everything else is delusion. Limitation is weakness. The Order held back from their full potential, and that's why they failed. Transformation through sacrifice is necessary. To become truly powerful, one must be willing to destroy everything, including one's own humanity. Realms are meant to be conquered, not protected or balanced, but dominated and reshaped. Immortality is the ultimate goal, transcending death, time, and the constraints of mortality. He is not insane. He is absolutely logical within his framework. He has proven his philosophy works. 70 years of success validates his approach. This makes him more dangerous than a raving madman. He is convinced and proven right. The mythology. What the religions of the realms say. In the sacred texts and prophecies found in religions of the realms, Ultranacious appears as the eternal shadow, a force that cannot be destroyed, only contained. The betrayer reborn, one who was cast into fire and emerged darkened. The architect of ruin, prophesied to unmake worlds systematically. The one beyond balance, a being who breaks the Guardian's mandate of equilibrium. The religious texts recognize him as something other than typical evil. He is systemic corruption, not a disease to be cured, but a fundamental force of entropy and transformation. Some prophecies suggest he is inevitable. Others claim only specific conditions can bind or defeat him. None suggest he can be simply killed and forgotten. Key moments that define him. The fortress burns. Survival through ruthlessness. Scavenging forbidden knowledge. The journey through realms. Endurance through willingness to sacrifice followers. The arrival in Atherin, seizing opportunity in chaos, offering genuine power. The transformation, using forbidden order knowledge to shed humanity. The new name, becoming Ultranacious Eternus, marking the death of Kaelion. The trader's manipulation, orchestrating Nythoria's fall through proxy betrayal. Binding with Aeliana, defying a guardian, being partially bound but not defeated. Gunner's strike, death that is not final, essence that persists. Rose's recognition, the moment she understands what her betrayal created. 70 years of power, systematic consolidation, and realm-spanning ambition. What makes him unstoppable? Not strength alone, cunning alone, power alone, but the combination of all three directed with absolute certainty toward a single goal: domination of the realms. Ultranacious has forbidden knowledge that predates modern magic, demonic resilience that makes him difficult to permanently kill, incomplete binding that constrains but doesn't contain him, 70 years of proven success that validates his methods. No moral constraints, no hesitation, no mercy, no redemption pathway. Systematic vision, not random conquest, but calculated architecture of ruin. Persistence beyond death, even killed, his essence infects the world. The worst part? He is right. He has proven that forbidden knowledge works. He has proven that transformation is possible. He has proven that realms can be systematically unmade. He has proven that with sufficient ambition and ruthlessness, power is absolute. This is not a villain who can be reasoned with. This is not darkness that can be turned to light. This is a being who has shed every limitation and become the embodiment of his own philosophy. The real identity. Ultranacious Eternus was never just one person. He began as Kaelion, a servant of the Order of the Grey who seized the vault when Rose burned the fortress. But Kaelion did not survive the escape. In the spaces between worlds, 14 people died. As each one fell, their essence flowed into the survivors. Kaelion felt 14 consciousnesses pour into him, their knowledge, their darkness, their hunger, their specific flavors of ambition and fear. They did not remain separate voices. They fused with him, transformed him, created something entirely new. By the time he reached Atherin, he was no longer Kaelion. He was a composite consciousness. 15 minds merged into one singular being that carried aspects of all of them. For 12 years, he ruled while wearing Kaelion's face. Then, he performed the 47-day ritual, not to create transformation, but to manifest a physical form worthy of what he'd already become. Ultranacious Eternus emerged from that ritual as the embodiment of that fusion. 15 consciousnesses speaking through one voice, 15 different darknesses unified in singular purpose, 15 people's worth of ambition, hunger, and ruthlessness compressed into one being. He orchestrated Nythoria's fall. He built an empire in Atherin. He bound himself through the Eliana ritual in ways that make him difficult to kill permanently. He is the Demon King not because he chose darkness, though he did, but because he is 15 people's darkness fused together and given singular voice. When Rose recognizes him 70 years later, she understands what happened in the between spaces created something far darker than she ever imagined. Her betrayal didn't create Ultranacious. The spaces between worlds did. She merely set in motion the events that forced him into those passages. Ultranacious Eternus is what happens when 15 people's essence becomes one. When fusion replaces individuality, when the Highlander principle, there can be only one, creates not a single survivor, but a composite being where all 15 are always speaking at once, and he is only contained, never truly defeated.